Whose idea was this?
A new year, a new president, and another 4 years of hyperpolarization on both sides of the aisle, in which one or a few of the following things is bound to happen. People screaming about how the Donald is the best or worst thing ever. Endless cries of fake news and gotcha moments, with most of these cries being ignored because it basically equates to a group of snotty teenagers screaming they have acne or cancer is evil, while both points are equally true and valid. Without a plan to fix either one, it ends up being a lot of noise and nobody ever wants to listen to, which brings me to my final point. If things by some miracle end up going well, then people just want to be left the hell alone. When you think about it, we're all just a bunch of hobbits. Fine living in Bag End, ignoring the threats of Mordor, Uruk-hai, and everyone else in the Middle-earth axis of evil until they show up at our door, at which point we become incensed because how could a thing like this happen? Perhaps if we listened to that old fool Gandalf and went on that pesky adventure that he wanted us to go on, which would have been in our best interest, we could have done something to stop it, or at very least we could have been on our way to higher ground. But instead, we're caught half asleep in our underwear, wondering how could this happen to us, when the lava is up to the windows.
I'm in danger.
I feel the same way when I come across some of these studies that I figured I'd hope would be common sense for most people, or at very least we had a decent grasp on. Then there are studies which basically amount to the people of Walmart.com, which may be fun to look at, but it really makes you question reality and how we've got so far gone as a people, but adding no real benefit overall, like whether or not monkeys get drunk. So you can imagine my surprise when I came across this study, which has been going on for 5 years, and hopefully should conclude this December, on how Congress works, being conducted by NASA. So wait, we need to have NASA, a group responsible for science and space exploration, study another branch of our government whose job should be outlined in our founding documents, who created that group, which now wants to study it? Excuse me for a moment. You know, after thinking about it, it kind of does make sense in a weird way. Most of the senators and representatives are in office so long they die there, so it's like they've created their own little world, which very well could be classified as its own planet, and now we need Captain Kirk to go on to explore that strange world. Just please don't make another IRS training video about it. So, how much did this study cost? Where's my towel? To give you an idea of how backwards this is, let's take a look at a few things, okay? As NASA is a government agency of its own, it has to present to Congress what it needs each year as part of the President's budget request. That in itself is not absurd, as we expect this of any business, to present how it plans to spend money and where it's all going. It's common sense. At least I hope so. Where absurdity comes screaming back into play is that this process takes an entire year to approve and is split into a 5-part process. Weighing in, getting each section of NASA's request for what they need for the coming fiscal year, which is 2 years away because of how that works. Negotiation and verbal fisticuffs ensue. Each center makes their case. The earlier rough draft gets prioritized and a bit more polished, building reserves for things that still can't be fully hammered out. Since NASA's job is air and space science, and just the general nature of how the scientific process works. The polished draft goes to the OMB, a separate organization that works with the president that again reviews the request and makes sure it lines up with the president's policy goals. Passed back, the OMB gives the proposed budget back to NASA marked up with what it agrees with and what it doesn't, so NASA can adjust or toss out those points. Final touches, and the presentation to Congress, generating a final draft from hundreds of different sources so it makes sense to our lawmakers. After this process of fighting and justifying, different projects have and will come about to benefit mankind, such as medicine, computers, and other technology. Back in 2012, this process included writing and requesting a portion of that money to go to study the group which was approving the budget so that it could survive and pay its employees for another 1 to 2 years. Dizzy yet? Well, let me try to put it in as simple terms as I possibly can. NASA must dedicate a full year's time and money, stretched out over time, largely put in by some group of schmucks whose dream may have been to be an astronaut, who is now either a non- or low-paid intern, listening to C-level executives debate why their department needs money, then sending that final group project of a research paper sent to Congress, who will examine it like a document sprayed with chloroform for a yes or no vote. Which will take even more time invested by low and non-paid interns because Congress can't be bothered to read the bill themselves. And we wonder why people get so angry and shut down when people start discussing things like politics. Congress is made up of 535 total members, which include 100 senators, 2 for each state, with 6-year terms, staggered over 2-year periods. 435 representatives. This is based on the population of each state, divided into districts, who serve 2-year terms, 6 of which are non-voting members for District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, American Samoa, Guam, North Mariana Islands, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. The Constitution lays out what they can do, including Article 1, Sections 1 through 8, 10, and the Necessary and Proper Clause, creating a structure, creating laws, collecting taxes, declaring war, and making rules for the military. This can change depending on constitutional amendments and Supreme Court rulings. Section 9 says what Congress cannot do. They can't create titles for royalty, like a king. People can't be detained without a trial, unless the United States is under rebellion or attack. And they're not supposed to spend money without writing a law first. Aside from a few other tasks, such as creating post offices and post office routes, and issuing patents and copyrights, their job is literally written out in our founding documents. So what's the big deal? I mean, come on, most of these people are doctors and lawyers. They specialize in speaking legalese. Do they need a cheat sheet on what the Constitution means? Okay, I get it. We shouldn't have to have laws for every little thing, like sticking a fork in an electrical outlet. I'd have thought that natural selection would have been a better instructor on teaching us that's a bad thing to do, rather than creating laws and describing punishments for some moron who wanted to shock himself.
Do I look like an idiot?
Nope.
Either that, or just leave it to private industry to put warning labels on cheese graters that they shouldn't be used for facial exfoliation. Get the point yet?
Nope.
So now that we understand how Congress is supposed to work, now we can get to the study of NASA trying to figure out how they work. Alright, okay, I guess it does make some sense as they don't work together daily, so I assume there's not complete bias going on. You would hope that Congress could read their employee handbook and understand what it can and can't do. Again, we expect this on a business level. Do we need Bob Slidell to come sit Congress down and ask them what they do all day? When I put it like that, maybe we do. But there's still a few things I just don't get. Doesn't Congress have some sort of HR department that should be sitting these guys and gals down and doing quarterly reviews? Now, for the sake of argument, and since it's already been going on and nothing I can say can stop it, what are they hoping to find out from this study? Let's take a look. The agency, NASA, plans to hold seminars that will provide participants with a comprehensive look at how Congress is organized, the key players and their roles, how the legislative process really works, and how Congress directly affects the daily operations of every department and agency in the executive branch. Seminars, hosted by NASA and Georgetown University, will also provide participants with briefings from experts in the field, opportunities to attend committee hearings, and observe floor action. Participants will be given a hands-on understanding of the congressional process and procedures, as well as the culture of the United States Congress, NASA said. So I guess my whining kind of got me what I wanted. Yeah, I wish. Some sort of HR hybrid thing with hands-on learning environment. What are we going to practice passing laws? Basically, we're giving selected individuals an opportunity to see what happens behind the scenes on C-SPAN and telling everyone this is how it's supposed to work. Here's the real question we should be asking. Why aren't we learning this stuff in school instead of teaching a select group of people? Couldn't we put that time and money to better use in school for learning this crap rather than taking it away from NASA and their efforts in developing hoverboards and flying cars or sending us to Mars? Regardless of how I want the study to proceed, let's discuss the following. Are we going to do something about the way they work if we find out they're not following their own rules? Are we going to start implementing a merit system to base their annual raises on instead of having them vote for it? Are we going to start making them living by the laws they pass themselves? Or are we just going to add this to the massive pile of existing government studies that tell us what we do or think we already know, and then keep electing these guys because they're doing such a great job? I mean, are we going to come together and start working together and realize that we have to be involved to a certain extent, voicing our disagreements peacefully and shaping the laws with them instead of coming up with laws like it's illegal to keep an ice cream cone in your back pocket on Sunday? Or are we going to keep ignoring everything and just yelling at each other when things go wrong? That? Oh, fine. See where that gets you. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, want to see something improve, consider donating to my Patreon. A couple bucks a month goes a long way. See you soon.